So we are not, from a marketing standpoint, if we think a lead is just going to reach out one time and then we leave them a voicemail and they get back to us, those days are long gone. It is about how quickly we can respond to them, how many times we respond, our mode of communication. Are we calling, texting, emailing? So from a marketing standpoint, we're very focused on that leads process and how quickly, like you can't sleep on it.
Welcome to The Crow's Nest, the official podcast of Candace Crowe Design. I'm TK.
And I'm Candace.
Today's guests are Amy Anderson and Mara Shorr of BrinsonAnderson Consulting.
In this episode, we'll learn from two longtime industry leaders that take a kind and mentorship approach to their company. Listen as you hear Amy and Mara tell about some of the stories they've been a part of.
We hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed the conversation. Happy listening. Hi, Amy. Hi, Mara. It's so nice to have you here with us today on the Crow's Nest. We're excited to learn more about Brinson Anderson and all the great things you do helping practices. I'd love to get started with just getting a little bit about your background, Amy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us today. Thrilled to be here. I'm Amy Anderson. I am the co-founder of Brinson Anderson Consulting. Everything I do and Mara does, we work in the aesthetic space. So that's with plastic surgeons, facial plastic surgeons, cosmetic dermatologists, med spas. Aesthetics is what we live and breathe, and it's what we've been doing essentially our entire careers. We do everything in the practice management realm. So we're helping surgeons usually, but surgeons and practice owners start and grow their practices.
Awesome. Thank you. We're on the marketing side, but we often get asked, kind of random questions about business management, operations, things like that. So I know our audience is really going to enjoy listening to, how you help practices. So now over to Mara. Mara, just a little bit about your background.
Yes. So I've been in this space not quite as long as Amy, but I've been in this space about 15 years, and which is wild sometimes to look back and think, holy moly, I've been doing it this long. And specifically working with both plastic surgery and aesthetic, cosmetic, surgical, and non-surgical practices as well. And it's just become a passion. And I am so thrilled to be here speaking with you guys today, talking about practice management. I know over the years, we have, whether it's Candace or Amy or TK or I, like we've all punted questions back and forth to each other. And so it's fun to be able to have this conversation together and record it for other people to hear too.
Wonderful. Also, we have a lot in common, Mara. We all both are from Central Florida, Orlando. Our company and the company you used to be with, and then now you work still here. And
Yes.
you are a daughter of someone that worked in plastic surgery for a long, long time. And TK is my son and grew up actually with naked pictures on my desk.
I mean, there's that.
Right there.
It's okay. I'm going to go on a limb and say you no longer have your nude photos on your mom's desk, but that's just me assuming that I haven't been to the office in a while, so things might have changed.
Yeah, he'd have the company started out in the home. And so when he'd have a friend stop over after work and there would be before and afters up on my computer, the friends would just like
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, I'm sure you have a lot to talk about, but
I get it.
I want to hear more about the Brinson Anderson backstory.
Yes. Amy, do you want to kick this one off?
Well, sure. So Brinson Anderson came together because my business partner, Cheyenne Brinson, and I both were in the consulting space, working with surgeons, and we just saw that there could be a different way of doing practice management consulting. And honestly, we are very hands-on in the weeds type of consultants. And we found that many of our clients, we would give them recommendations and they'd say, great, like, yeah, we kind of know we need to do that, but like, how do we do it? And how do we get our staff on board? And how do we hold them accountable and make sure we don't change it for 3 weeks and then it reverts back to the old way? And so our our style or our approach is to really integrate ourselves into the client's practices. And we really function as an extension of their team. And that can have a couple of different roles, I suppose. Like we do a lot of hiring for our clients. So we are the ones sourcing the candidates, doing the screening interviews, handling the offer, doing the background check, checking references. And then we don't stop there. We're going to set up their training plan. We're going to make sure they get onboarded in the best way so they're fully integrated into the practice, and check in, making sure that that is a successful hire. For some of our other practices, they struggle with their financials. And so we'll step in and have a heavy role in their QuickBooks and helping, teach them how to use it, how to be a business owner, how to understand their numbers, what reports to run. And EHRs, we are heavily involved in setting up and optimizing their software that they're using. That's a huge opportunity in most practices. So, I mean, I can go on and on, but really we're filling the gaps of expertise and leadership where practices need that.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is you kind of take a mentor approach. Like you come in, you do some of the heavy lifting, some of the things that they may not do on a daily basis, like hiring, firing, or just making sure they have processes in place. So with that, why don't we jump right into some of the topics we want to talk about today?
Yeah, of course. Business consulting and management comes in all shapes and forms. And I know starting practices and doing grand opening events is a part of that. And there are some obstacles that come with both of those things. And I remember last week you telling us a little story about one of those events that I thought would be good for our listeners to hear.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. So we have amazing clients. I will preface this by saying we have absolutely amazing clients, and we only take clients that are just pristine in what they do and how they practice surgery and how they practice medicine, right? So that is something that, thank goodness, we never have to worry about, right? On the other hand, there's everything else that happens in the outside world. And there was one day and I would say Q1, Q2 of this year, we helped so many practices open their business, right? Open their doors. And so there was one particular practice that, mid to the end of the week, Amy and I are on a call and we're talking about all the fun, great details about their open house. They're going to be launching, they're going to be opening their doors in the next few weeks. And we're talking, about like the fun details, right? About the guest list and all these things we're going to celebrate. And then that evening, Amy gets a phone call. And it's a phone call that, quite honestly, we had not at all, like nobody had anticipated, right? But Amy, because they could only call one of us on a limb, right? So they call Amy, and Amy that night calls me and she's like, Mara, you're never going to believe this. But this is what happened, and we're going to have to do a total regroup. So Amy, do you want to talk for just a second about what that phone call changed and what we would all, the doctors, and because it's a partnership of two amazing doctors, and we all would just go on to lovingly call it the event, right? So we just started calling it the event. So Amy, do you want to talk about, and I put in air quotes, the event?
Yeah, so the event was one of the most unfortunate things that could happen. They went into their office and realized the city sewer line had backed up into their office, and not just into the office, into the operating room, down the hallway. It was about 50% of their square footage literally had raw sewage. And I got the call and I was a bit speechless. And, the call was a little bit of like, well, what do we do? And obviously, Mara and I are not qualified to manage the details of that disaster itself.
No.
So, but they had already called the people who would, needed to be involved in cleaning it up. But fast forward, as crazy as a situation as that was, it actually ended up being almost a blessing. First and foremost, very strategically made the decision to not broadcast the reason for the delay in opening, or referring to it as a flood. There was a minor flood. Patients do not need to know the dirty details of what kind of flood. But what the result of it, the city worked with them amazingly to cover the expenses, to do renovations, but they got a renovated office suite, which they did not already have. So they got new floors in their OR, they got new drywall, new paint, and honestly, it did set things back a few months. But they had such a positive outlook. I mean, many of us could have just like crawled in bed and put the head over our covers, never to emerge again. But they said, okay, here's what we have. What do we need to do to move forward? And really proud of that optimism, and happy to say that they are flood free at this point and open for business and doing such a beautiful job.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's
awesome. And, it's so important to have somebody that is in your back pocket that you can just call. Sometimes you don't have the answers, but just, I mean, I hate to say it because I'm getting up there in years, but sometimes I still call my mom. and having somebody to talk things through, it helps kind of calm you down, and then you can kind of just put your one foot in front of the other and keep going. And quite often, at least in my life, I know sometimes these crazy things happen and you're like, how am I ever going to crawl out of this? But then, like you said, it ends up being a positive, and you get new floors. And
that's right.
There's two sides to every coin.
That's
the key is learning how to flip the coin.
Yes.
I like that.
I love this. Yes. And they, we worked with them to look at what were realistic timelines, because they were having to give timelines to the city, to the city's insurance companies. And so what were the realistic timelines? What is it that we need? What is it that they needed to give? What is it when we came to credentialing? When it came to getting that OR back up and running, what did those timelines need to be? And it was in what order too. So we worked very heavily on that, and they are up and running and moving and grooving.
Wonderful. So we have a few more stories we want to get to.
Yes.
So I want to move on to the next one. And I love this one. It's called Won't You Be My Neighbor? And you were able to create an open house that had a line of people around the block. I would love for you to tell our listeners how you did that, because so many practices have events. Some of them are able to get an audience and others aren't. So step 1, step 2, step 3, the story. Amy, take it away.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite stories to tell. It is about Lugo Plastic Surgery, Dr. Liana Lugo. She is outside of Athens, Georgia, and she had her grand opening the very beginning of this year. It was the end of January, and took such a strategic approach to getting the word out. So the strategy really is, we identified local businesses that were first and foremost women owned. That was very important to her. So local, women owned. And we took to Instagram to check out what their following was. So we wanted, good businesses that reflected her values and had a good following of people. So approached those businesses and offered to do a collaboration. And it wasn't a weird, like this post, share it 5 times, those things that we all see and kind of, maybe cringe at a little bit. It was more, we would love to feature you on our Instagram page. Can we do a quick video about your business and why you started it? And in exchange, we'll, make you a collaborator. We'd ask you to share it as well. And then we would love to feature you at our open house grand opening. And so, of course, like, who says no to that? Like, they were super excited. It got free publicity for them. They get to align with a plastic surgeon who has a stunning office and is an extraordinarily talented surgeon. And we got access to their following and their loyal customers. And we picked businesses that made sense. There was a specialty, lingerie store that does specialty bras and undergarments, which is appropriate for plastic surgery, right? A local gym and fitness center that it's all about health and wellness, and some other businesses of that type. So it took a little bit of effort to coordinate creating the Instagram post.
You can be honest there. It takes a lot of effort.
It takes a lot. It does.
Right.
It really does. But they were such eager participants. And then every time we posted about the grand opening, we would ask them to share it, and they did. And then part two of this is we asked people to RSVP for the grand opening. It was free to attend, but the sign up sheet was more like, we'd love to know what you want to see at the grand opening. So it gave people a chance to kind of vote. And I'm going to tell you guys a secret. We already knew what we were going to do, but it was an engagement tool. So people say, "Ooh, I want to vote. Yes, I would love free samples." Obviously. Yes, I would love to hear about services. Oh, there'll be a DJ. That sounds fun. But it got people to fill out the sheet, sign
I
up,
love that.
and then the
Just a
final
list of everything. It's like, I love that.
Yeah. And then that real secret sauce, I think, that resulted in the line out the door is that we had, I think it was 50 gift bags of really cool stuff. I mean, you think about big events and the swag bag. I mean, full-size skincare products, gifts from the collaborating businesses in the community. And so we kept blasting that out. It's only the first 50 people, doors open precisely at 7 p.m. And we rented a red carpet to have out the front door. And we kept the doors locked. And I'm telling you guys, I was so tempted when people started showing up 20 minutes early. I'm like, well, we should let them in. No, we kept to our schedule. And so when they came in, it was a moment. The music was going, everyone was in their places. We're standing there with our gift bags. And it kicked off the whole event. So even as people are driving in, they're like, wow, this is the place to be. And it was so fun to see all the excitement built up around it.
That's very, very, very cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Generating a buzz is challenging, but when you drive up to a restaurant or a nightclub or whatever it is, and you see the line out the door, you're like, that's the place I want to be.
That's right.
So,
Also, Amy, the lifelong Midwesterner in you, it does not surprise me that you wanted to let everybody in early. Like, no, come in, come into my home. It's okay. Like, Amy is one of the most welcoming humans. So it does not surprise me at all that she's like, no, let's just let them inside. We don't need to make them stand outside. I love this so much.
The anticipation is wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Love that.
Yeah. So I know one of the things that you help with is, putting processes and protocols in place. And sometimes you don't know that you need one until something happens. So, Mara, could you tell us about a time where you discovered that you needed a process or a protocol or you helped a practice implement one?
Yes. Amy and I were on a site visit, and we're going to say this is a practice in the South. This is one of those, Amy gets the stories where she gets to brag about with the client name. And I am like, oh no, let me tell you about all the things that we've done that there's been a situation that's gone wrong. So a practice in the South, and they have absolutely given us permission to tell this story, right? They're like, we want other people to learn from this. And Amy and I were on site. They had just opened their practice. This is not a doctor that was new by any means to surgery, but he had just opened up his brand new practice. So in facial plastic surgery. And so when the patient of the morning had come in, and he said, and the practice themselves, the staff, they said, is there somebody that is going to be driving you home? Do you have a chaperone? And he said, yes. They said, okay, then we're good. They took the patient's word for it. In theory, we should be able to do this, right? So I don't necessarily fault the practice. However, what we would go on to realize is when this patient was discharged, that the patient's chaperone didn't necessarily, we don't think, have a valid driver's license. And so patient, all bandaged up after his rhinoplasty, got in the driver's seat of the car after he was wheeled on out the door. And the practice said, no. The staff was saying, no, you need to be in the passenger seat. So they switched places. Passenger is now, or the patient is now in the passenger seat. And we all turn around, we're regrouping, talking about how the morning surgery went. And one of the nurses comes out and goes, oh no, he forgot his water bottle, because they have a practice branded water bottle that they send home with every patient that has had surgery. So she goes out and realizes that they have now switched spots again, and the patient is back in the driver's seat. Again, you're talking maybe an hour and a half, 2-3 hours, not even, after surgery. And we go, oh no. So again, they have them switch. And we're watching as the chaperone is pulling out of the parking spot. And I said, they are absolutely going to go in the next parking lot over and switch spots. And we laugh because the rest of the staff goes, oh, what do you mean? What do you think? And I said, I have teenagers. I know how this goes. Right? Like that is what our girls would have done in their sneakier years. Right. And so they laugh. I go storming out. And sure enough, that's what they had done. And they had switched spots again. Now, fast forward after lots of charging after patients, physically through alleyways and parking lots, the patient and the chaperone, they made it to the hotel for the evening. They were, turned out they were only going to be staying about 10 minutes away, but we'd asked for proof that they checked into the hotel. And from now on, we said we need to make sure that the patient has a chaperone that comes into the practice prior to surgery. They actually, the practice meets the chaperone and we see a copy of their ID. Now, the other part is making sure that they have a valid driver's license and that they are 18 or over, because the rest of the afternoon, a patient had a facelift and we assumed it's a Monday, right? I think it was a Monday. And we're like, well, of course, this patient is, the patient's chaperone and driver is over 18 because it's a Monday. It's the middle of the day. And here she is. She'd be in school otherwise. We didn't factor in that it was President's Day weekend and she had off of school. And as they were leaving, somebody says, oh my gosh, the mother just said, oh, that this patient, her daughter had just gotten her driver's license like a month before that. And as they're driving off. And so we said, from now on, we need to see their driver's license. They need to be 18 years of age or older. And we need to make sure that we have met them ahead of time. And I say that it's rules like this that come into place, and 99% of the time you will not use them, right? Or you won't need them. There won't be a risk of a violation. It's not going to be an issue. But this is why we have ridiculous laws like don't park your elephant on the left side of the road every other Monday and the third Tuesday of the month, right? It's because somebody did that. And this is why we have these rules in place now. And we have these processes and protocols, and you can bet that they never made this mistake again. So I tell you, if you are a practice listening to this, make sure that you have a copy of, you see that ID, you see the valid driver's license, and they are 18 years of age or older. And that is who you are releasing your patient to after surgery.
That's such a great story. And processes are there for a reason. So the next two segments are going to be about nicknames. Both of you girls ladies, women have nicknames. Amy, you and I both come from the Midwest, and so I totally would let them in early. Totally. Come on. You have a piece of cake. You need some warm hot chocolate or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So your nickname is not the horse whisperer, the plastic surgeon, the surgeon's whisper.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm very flattered to have that nickname, and it has come up a few times, but when I first received it, I was working in an academic center. So I grew up in plastic surgery practices, and I was at a point in my career, I was the division administrator for a plastic surgery department, and we had 12 attendings, 18 residents. I mean, it was a big group, lots to corral, let's say. And the chief of plastics at that time,
Amy, is corral like a horse reference because Candace said whisper?
maybe it was a subliminal note there. Yes, and the chief of plastics I got along with very, very well. However, he had a reputation in the hospital and in the academic center of not being the easiest person to work with, and very short-tempered, and meetings could sometimes get heated and explosive. And at one point, one of the hospital administrators called me in, and I thought, oh gosh, what did I do, or what did somebody do? And he offered me a different position in the hospital, which was would have been a pretty significant advancement. And I was really confused because I had no idea where it came from. And he said to me, I was in that meeting with Dr. insert name, and it was one of the most uncomfortable meetings I've ever been in. And I saw how you handled him. And he said, you just had a way. Something you said immediately de-escalated, and he listened to you. And he goes, and I figured if you can handle him, you can handle anything we have going on here at the hospital. So and so he was the first to give me that nickname, that I was a surgeon whisperer, because I just had a way with the most difficult of doctors. So I was extremely flattered by that. It wasn't necessarily, I wasn't trying to earn the nickname. I just was trying to de-escalate the situation. And so I recently had a conversation with somebody else, and I said, I'm not sure I can claim that I think like a surgeon. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I understand how surgeons think. And it is why I personally exclusively work with surgeons and their practices, because it is a different thought process, and I get it, and I can relate to it.
All right. So Mara, you are known as the group project girl.
So this is an interesting one. So I've had career transitions over the past few years, and I come from having been a partner in another cosmetic surgery consulting practice, right? So another practice management consulting company, and spent 10 years, and then went and transitions last year in my career. And one of the things that I realized, and people had said to me, well, you have all this knowledge. Why don't you go and you just open up your own firm or go work? You have all this knowledge. You can go work on your own. And one of the things that I realized, and I think where I love working with clients so much, is I love the concept of a good group project, right? And for me, working with our clients is group project. And so the thought of me being purely on my own in a consulting capacity never felt right to me. And I love that is where, when I joined the team at Brinson that is one of the things that I will say I absolutely love, is we have a team of consultants, and we are all able to do gut checks with each other of, hey, I'm running up against this situation. This is what I'm proposing to the client, but this is a really tricky one, or this could potentially cause a violation here of something that's going on. What's the best way to handle this? Or even just celebrating our wins together, right? And I think that for me, I knew, and my friend said to me, she goes, because you're a group project girl, like you love this part of it. And it is part of what I love about consulting, is being able to work with our clients that need somebody else in on the group project, right? And so when we're working together, they don't want to feel like an island either. And I think a lot of times, either an owner that is also the owner medical director, right? The owner surgeon, when they're first starting, especially, and their practice is small and they don't have a practice manager yet, they feel like an island as well, right? And I get that feeling. Or there is a practice manager that says it's lonely at the top, right? That the surgeon is busy in surgery, and you're not going to become best friends with the rest of the team, and it's lonely at the top. And so we're able to pull these group projects, so to speak, right? I put this in air quotes, pull this group project together. So for me, that's where that nickname kind of came from amongst my group of friends, as I was really going through career transitions last year.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. And that's a great segue into our last story. And then we're going to go into some quick Q&As.
Yeah.
So it's real interesting, because being a group project girl,
right? Girl, human, woman, lady.
it just kind of means that you really see people and you interact with them in a way that is meaningful. And so many times in our lives, we just get into ourselves and what our business or our practice is doing and what our goals are, that it's hard to slow down and stop and say, hey, there's other people out there that we could be group project girl for. And we're calling that volunteering, to see people, really see them, go volunteer. And last week, Mara, we had it was amazing what ideas you had for Go Volunteer. And so I'd like the both of you to comment on what you've seen practices do to Go Volunteer and what it's done for the staff. It's not like, it's not a negative. It doesn't take away, it's addition. Okay, so let's go for it.
Okay, Amy, can I jump in on this one first?
Please do.
So I will say I love the way that you phrase this, Candace, because so many people think, oh, I'm now paying people to, either take PTO or conduct services for free, or it takes away from their quote unquote day job. And we need to think of this as the exact opposite. I've seen some beautiful success stories. We had one practice back, it was Purini aesthetic surgery. Again, no problem celebrating successes out loud. And they made an entire campaign around collecting new or gently used bras. This was a body cosmetic surgery. So they did a lot of breast work. And when women's breast size changes, then their bra size changes, obviously. And they would do this in the month of October, and then they would donate those bras to a domestic violence shelter. Because often when women leave in the middle of the night, they leave with pajamas, and a lot of times they're not wearing bras, right? So a new or gently used bra, and then they offered a light discount, we'll say, for up to a certain amount inside that practice. I've seen them do this with toys as well around the holiday time or back to school supplies. I've also seen there was a laser. Basically, they focused on laser tattoo removal, this particular practice, that would volunteer, and in the middle of the night, their laser techs would, on their own time, they would volunteer and come in, and it had to be in the middle of the night because they helped these really either kids or young adults of any age help remove gang tattoos. And they did it in the middle of the night, and they consistently did it at random times so that nobody would catch on as far as when they would come. And they'd come in, by a bus or in unmarked cars, and they would help with that. And I think that there has been so many different campaigns I've seen, some of which belong on social media, some of which totally belong off of social media. If we're talking about safety, I've seen a lot of domestic violence survivors that have been treated pro bono by staff. And that is a really beautiful thing to be able to do that as well. Often it's not covered by insurance. And so these are, very, very necessary to continue on. I've seen some really, really beautiful ways of doing this. And then the last one that I will say, because I could go on forever, right? Candace and Amy and TK know I could talk about these things forever, is building in, whether it's one day a quarter, right, for your team to take that time, and whether it's one day or one half day a quarter, whatever it is you think, to go volunteer somewhere that they are passionate about. And I say, you can say, I want this to be non-religious, non-political, and in order for us to cover it, right, for it to be covered. In addition to their PTO, and empower them to go out in the community and participate in making the community a better place. My stepdad always taught me, my mom and my stepdad have been together almost 30 years. And my stepdad, Henry, taught me from day one, you leave the community better than you found it. And whether that is your physical community where you physically live, whether it's your work community, i.e. the plastic surgery space, right? Whatever that looks like to you, you leave it better than you found it. And, Amy has stories and she shares photos as well, right? Of the work that she does in her community.
Yeah, I want to take a little twist on this. I say kindness isn't considered marketing, but it sure does go a long way.
That's a good line. Yes.
And
Yes.
Amy, we both are from the Midwest, and we know eventually you're going to end up in a snowbank.
That's true.
And you're going to need a neighbor to help pull you out.
That's right.
And if you have a neighbor that you're at odds with, hey, they're not going to get up at 2:00 in the morning and pull you out.
Mhm.
So you learn that instinctively, that kindness is strength. They're actually doing studies now more on, instead of survival of the fittest, it's survival of the kindest.
I love that.
So anyway, I think it's probably a little bit of both. Why don't you dive into some of the benefits that you've seen practices enjoy from volunteering?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is the culture of the practice and that team building element that it's almost impossible to not achieve when you get together as a group and volunteer. And whether it's providing services that you already do in your business or something totally different, whether you're walking dogs for the Humane Society. I have a practice that the surgeon is a baker. He loves to bake. So every year they have bread day and they bake pounds and pounds and pounds of bread and deliver it to different businesses and referral sources. And it's become like a tradition. Everybody's like excited about bread day.
Are
But
you allowed to name the surgeon on this one?
this is an ENT doctor. This is
Okay.
Landrum ENT in Ada,
Yes.
Oklahoma, Dr. Trey Landrum. And it's a whole assembly line of staff who may have never baked bread before, but you know, they're doing it as a team, and it just, energy is high, spirits are high, and that's contagious. And so the next day back at work, you know, everybody's rejuvenated and they're feeling great about it. So the cultural impact of volunteering, whatever it is you choose to do, I think is just tremendous in bringing the team together.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What are some small wins that plastic surgeons can do to run a more efficient day?
Use their technology to its fullest capacity. I recommend on almost every podcast episode that I speak on, meet with your tech vendors quarterly, ask them for like the newest updates on the technology that you're already subscribing for, and max it out because you're already paying for it. And then use the people to do things that only people can do, but technology to do the things that technology can do, and be more automated, be more efficient, and make sure stuff gets done that way.
Perfect.
Awesome.
So Amy, what are the top marketing trends that you see for 2024?
Ooh, marketing trends. I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, but I was just having a conversation about the essential need of a good CRM system in a practice. So we are not, from a marketing standpoint, if we think a lead is just going to reach out one time and then we leave them a voicemail and they get back to us, those days are long gone. It is about how quickly we can respond to them, how many times we respond, our mode of communication. Are we calling, texting, emailing? So from a marketing standpoint, we're very focused on that leads process and how quickly, like you can't sleep on it.
What's the biggest hang up practices have with taking good before and after photos and getting them on their website?
Oh goodness.
No, I was going to get that one in there.
We could talk all day about photos. We are
Biggest hang up.
so aligned on this. Most practices, first and foremost, need better training of their staff to take the photos, to take good photos. We don't come out of the womb understanding how to appropriately frame a patient and make sure the hair is pulled back and the jewelry is removed and all of those things. So one, it's training staff on how to do it, but two, it's got to be easy. So working with a company like yours, Candace, that has technology so that it's super easy to take the photo, load it into the software, and then it's done. Like it goes, if we're still taking it on an SD card, downloading it to desktop, uploading it to another system, no wonder these things never get done. So biggest hang up, training, and then the ease of technology to do it.
So maybe we can do another podcast in a couple of months on training staff to take good before and after photos.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. And Mara, one comment on before and after photos from you.
Making sure that it actually gets done.
The person is in the frame.
And the person is in the frame, but it doesn't matter if that person is or isn't in theory going to be in the frame if the staff member isn't properly trained on how to ask the patient for the before and after photo, and to phrase it of how, well, let me back that up, to properly phrase the request to take the before and after photo, because I hear so often, oh, they said no, they didn't want their photos taken. Well, we need to explain, by being able to showcase your results, patients just like you that are so in love with your results can really show other patients what it is out there and showcase the work. So other people will be able to really enjoy the benefits of the practice as well. And letting them know they can revoke that at some point in the future if they wish. So I think
for the
scripting.
release form, to use it in your marketing specifically. But practices should be taken before and afters, whether they sign a release or not. It's evidence for, every bad thing that can go wrong. So we're going to end with one last little tidbit. Now, I hear you just recently went to Antarctica. And I want to hear what lessons you learned that we can carry over into the aesthetic world. Amy?
Oh gosh, I could talk for hours about Antarctica. If anybody out there is a traveler and an animal lover, put it on your bucket list. It's a dream come true. It's everything and more. But probably the best, what's something I learned in Antarctica, I have I have lots of pictures of penguins. Penguins were my favorite to watch them waddle. I don't know if you guys know, they get on their bellies and they like wiggle around. Like that's how they get across the land. They swim. And so thousands of pictures and videos of penguins, and happened to capture one as he's walking down the rocks and he fell and like face planted. Like at the picture, he's like a face smushed up against the rock. It was sad. But the next moment he just popped back up, picked up the pebble he was carrying and went on his way. And I thought, oh gosh, isn't that life? We are on our journey, whether we're starting a practice, building a practice, growing a business, and we're on our mission. And by golly, something is going to trip us up and we might face plant and it's going to hurt and it might be embarrassing. It might set you back a little bit, but get back up, pick up that pebble and just keep going.
I love that so much.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, we could talk forever, I'm sure, but we do need to come to the end of this podcast. We'll do another one for sure. But thank you so much. Thank you so much to Brinson Anderson for giving you time to do this, to have a vision for helping other people. This is kind of like a volunteer thing, like helping get the word out about your stories and what you're doing. And thank you, TK.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's been a pleasure. Just for the listeners, where can people find you at?
Yes, our website is BrinsonAnderson.com. Mara and I are both on Instagram. Probably the easiest is to find our Instagram, our group Instagram page, which is at BrinsonAnderson.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll put all of the links and everything in our show notes just for anybody that's interested. And with that, we thank you very much and we look forward to the next time.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much.